for the victims of the COVID operation. Many people have died and many people are injured. I would also like to say, God bless the strength of the Romanian people. God bless Romania. God bless the Romanian leadership. And God bless this amazing structure that are housing the event today. So thank you very much. My name is Jason Christoff, and today I will be doing my Media Over Medicine presentation. And an important question to start is, was the government's global response to COVID based on clinical virology or behavioral psychology? And other questions that are very important to ask would revolve around, does the media have the power to make our decisions for us through the use of psychological group pressure tactics? Can group pressure, our fear of the crowd, force us to make illogical decisions which aren't in the best interest of ourselves, our loved ones, or our communities? Was the public exposed to any group pressure psychological manipulation tactics during the COVID operation? The next slide is a 2-minute video. Will demonstrate very clearly the power of group pressure to modify human behavior. It should play.
The ASH experiment is one of psychology's oldest and most popular pieces of research. A volunteer is told that he's taking part in a visual perception test. What he doesn't know is that the other participants are actors, and he's the only person taking part in the real test, which is actually about group conformity.
Please begin. The experiment you will be taking part in today involves the perception of line length. Your task will be simply to look at the line here on the left and indicate which of the 3 lines on the right is equal to it in length. So, for example, if you...
The actors have been told to match the wrong lines. The volunteer will be monitored to see if he gives the correct answer or if he goes along with the opinion of the group and gives the wrong answer. In the first test, the correct answer is 2.
1. 1.
1.
2.
1.
Once again, the correct answer is 2.
3.
3.
3.
3.
3.
The ASH experiment has been repeated many times, and the results have been supported again and again. We will conform to the group. Again, we're very social creatures. We're very much aware of what the people around us think. We want to be liked. We don't want to be seen to rock the boat, so we will go along with the group. Even if we don't believe what people are saying, we'll still go along.
1.
1.
1.
1.
Group dynamics is one of the most powerful forces in human psychology.
1.
The results of the ASH conformity experiment were shocking, to say the least. 50% of participants conformed to fabricated group pressure and gave the wrong answer, with the majority knowing that the answer was wrong. Secret answers given on paper to the instructor reduced group conformity to only 12%. So if your answer was secret, you would be less likely to conform to the group pressure. Only 25% of people stood up to give the fabricated group pressure, to give the right and truthful answer. In psychology, we call them fully functional adults. And anybody speaking here today involved with this event is a fully functional adult, and thank you for that. I'm not too sure what's going on with the slides, but I'll walk you through everything. People who conformed to the group pressure and gave the wrong answer, they were basically low status, high need for approval types. Most were also from cultures that honored obedience to authority. Most were people who defined their self-worth by what others thought of them. In clinical psychology, there are people who are weak mentally, known as the forever child, people who have somehow bypassed their proper rite of passage from child to adult. These people are the most conformist. In a society of adults who act, talk, and think like children cannot survive. Basically, there are other factors that increase group conformity. The more psychological fear a person is in, the more they conform to group pressure based on fear-based changes in brain function. The more chemical fear a person is in, caffeine, alcohol, junk food, they conform more to group pressure because it's the same changes in brain function. Your body is afraid of poison. And this is why the bottle shops, the weed shops in Canada, the fast food restaurants and the corner stores were opened during a health crisis. Fear shuts down critical thinking and increases conformist behavior, irrational and illogical behavior as well. And has anybody seen any parts of the public exhibiting irrational and illogical behavior from 2020 forward? Obviously, the answer would be yes. So psychology experts also chime in on how to best control the public. Dr. Juice Merleau, author of the book Rape of the Mind and Psychology of Thought Control, recounted that keeping a victim confused is the best for psychological control and manipulation. Dr. Merleau also recounted that with the training of any animal, it's best to train the human animal in isolation away from the others. Similar to training horses, similar to training dogs, you get them away from the others. Merleau further recounted, after studying Korean War POWs, that mind controlling a person was best served with periods of intense attack and fear broken up by periods of peace and favored treatment, again to confuse the victim and again to control the victim through confusion. Edward Bernays, author of the books Propaganda and Crystallizing Public Opinion, explained that the crowd wasn't even needed physically to build the group pressure that changed the victim's mind. Sitting in a room alone with your TV during the 14 days to flatten the curve and only perceiving the power of an imaginary group on the TV screen can indeed bring about conformity to that imaginary group. Other ways that fear can be used to control the public in the research. Stockholm Syndrome was a phrase coined by psychiatrist Niels Bergerath after a 5-day bank robbery standoff in Stockholm, Sweden. There's a picture of the inside of the bank in the shot. Many bank tellers taken hostage became sympathetic to their captors and even romantically involved after the heist was over, under the immense trauma, fear, and stress. Demonstrations of an immense public power can trigger a survival response of trauma bonding with the abusers and endorsing of the abuser for fear of reprisal. And we saw many people do that in 2020. They sided with the government, not because the government was making sense, but because the government was a bully. That's why. We've learned a lot in the Milgram experiment, sort of the power of the white coat. In the Milgram experiment, just over 50% of research subjects would execute orders to kill or injure another human being if the order came from someone of authority, someone with a title, and someone in a lab coat. Here we have Dr. Anthony Fauci. He is someone of authority, someone with a title, and someone in a lab coat, and he is telling people what to be afraid of. And he's also telling people how to relieve the fear. And in the Milgram experiment, people were manipulated to potentially hurt and kill others. In the COVID experiment, it appears they were manipulated to injure and kill themselves. This is a weaponization of psychology against the public. Was psychology used against the public during COVID? Organizations like the UK's SAGE, standing for the Safety Advisory Group for Emergencies and the International BIT Corporation Behavioral Insights team admitted openly to using nudge-style psychological manipulation on the public during COVID in order to achieve their desired outcomes. These outcomes appeared one-sided, and they appeared so because they treated us like animals. And you can see that of the photos inside the slide. We were isolated and trained effectively in that isolation. As Dr. Just Merleau described, fear was upregulated into the stratosphere in order to lower IQ and increase conformist behaviors inside the limbic system via the fear response. When the human animals, us, were getting trained in COVID isolation by our instructor, the TV set, the opinion of the perceived crowd was repetitively imprinted into us by the media, thus leading to behavior and belief-altering group compliance, as Ash had documented, without the group being physically present, as Bernays had cited. The public were kept in perpetual states of confusion with contradictory messages. Gyms had to close during a health crisis, but bottle shops were open. Masks weren't necessary at the beginning, we were told. Then one was necessary, then two, then no masks if you complied, then masks back on for everybody. Then suddenly, magically, masks did not matter. The virus attacked at 10:01, but not at 9:59, because we know the virus carries a stopwatch everywhere it goes. The virus also attacked when you were standing at a restaurant, but not when you were sitting, because the virus also carries a tape measure. Confusion is the foundation of all mind control, according to Dr. Merleau. Then came the public exposure of people's vaccine status with the work mandates, triggering Ash's 50% or more higher compliance to group pressure compared to the 12% compliance level if our decisions are kept private to ourselves. They outed our vaccine status to get 4 to 5 times more vaccine uptake. This, again, is a weaponization of the known psychological research. The cycling of terror and more normal periods of peace and favored treatment were relentless, which kept the human psyche in a permanent state of instability, optimal for controlling the masses, according to Dr. Merleau. Businesses were open, businesses were closed, you had to wear a mask, you take your mask off, all very confusing, and it worked exactly as designed. Were the police told by the government, please focus on the photos here, were the police told by governments to be as heavy-handed as possible in order to induce Stockholm Syndrome trauma bonding with authority, plus upregulate fear around a COVID narrative obviously made of pure wind? So again, the question remains, was the government's response to COVID based on clinical virology or behavioral psychology? The public are generally aware that crimes have been committed. Morality, ethics, and justice must be reinvigorated in all levels of our society, from the ground up. Charges must be laid, criminal investigations initiated, and criminal conspirators punished to the highest order. Never again shall such blatant psychological manipulation be used by government against its own citizens. God and good always wins. Always. This is Jason Christoff. Thank you for listening.